There is a promise echoing in this new day, a truth that crosses the night and manifests itself forcefully at dawn. Weeping may last for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Psalm 30 verse 5. And this morning is not common. It carries a call, a response, a divine intervention ready to touch what was heavy, silent, hidden. The anguish that seemed inexplicable now finds a breaking point, because God's presence has already begun to move. What was once weight begins to turn into lightness. What was fear begins to give way to peace. And what seemed like just another difficult day, now it reveals itself as the beginning of a miracle. When the morning starts heavy, it is exactly there that the most powerful miracle can be born. The presence of God already surrounds this moment, and this prayer begins as a whisper of faith that slowly turns into strength, like a soft light that invades the interior and begins to dissolve everything that weighs without explanation. May this instant be separated, consecrated, surrendered, because it is not just another beginning of the day. It is a turning point. It is an encounter with peace that does not depend on circumstances. And even though the heart has awakened tight, even though the mind has woken up loaded, there is something greater happening now. A silent but powerful divine intervention beginning to touch every thought, every emotion, every area that needs healing and restoration. The breath slows down, the spirit quiets down, and little by little, hope begins to return. Faith begins to move in a subtle, almost imperceptible way, but real, as if something invisible is being rearranged inside, as if God's presence is entering where before there was only confusion, fear, or emptiness. And in this environment that is now forming, there is no longer room for despair, because peace begins to take territory. And as a gesture of spiritual agreement, as someone who aligns himself with this movement and declares that he is ready to receive this transformation, may this act be done with reverence and faith. I ask you to bless us with your subscription to the channel and give us your like on this video. The soul begins to realize that it is not alone, that there is protection, that there is care, and that this day will not be led by anguish, but by the presence of God, who has already begun to act. There's something being broken now. Even if it is not yet fully visible, something begins to move in the spiritual world, and everything that came as a weight, as nameless anguish, as a silent oppression upon awakening, begins to lose strength in the face of this presence that invades and occupies every space of the interior. Because where God's presence enters, no burden remains intact. Every negative energy, every word thrown at life, every envy, every spiritual shadow that tried to approach during the night or at dawn, now she is confronted, and not only confronted, but annulled, canceled, undone by the divine authority that manifests itself with power. Invisible chains begin to break, emotional chains begin to fall, and what seemed impossible to explain begins to simply disappear. The mind begins to clear, the chest begins to lighten, and a new force begins to emerge from within, as if the sky itself were breathing life again. No spiritual misery remains. No hidden attack is sustained. No oppression is allowed to continue. Everything that does not come from God is being removed now, by the force of faith, by divine intervention, by the authority of the light that dispels all darkness. And at that moment, a protection begins to settle around, like an invisible, firm, constant shield, guarding thoughts, emotions, paths, and decisions. Visible and invisible enemies lose access. Every attempt to disturb is blocked. Every negative arrow is deflected. There is liberation happening, profound, complete, real. The soul begins to breathe more lightly, because it is no longer carrying what does not belong to it. The spirit is strengthened, hope grows again, and what seemed like a heavy beginning begins to transform into a new beginning full of possibilities. The victory begins to take shape, and all this is already a sign that the miracle has begun. There is an opening of paths happening now, as if doors that were invisible began to appear before spiritual eyes, as if opportunities that were blocked began to align precisely, silently, and powerfully. Because when God's presence comes in, not only is pain dealt with, life begins to reorganize itself towards abundance. Every financial limitation, every scarcity, every feeling of tightness and lack begins to be confronted by a new spiritual reality. Debts begin to lose strength. Cycles of difficulty begin to be interrupted, and what seemed stagnant begins to flow again. There is a release happening, a change of scenery, a transformation that begins in the invisible, but will soon manifest itself in the natural. Divine wisdom begins to take place in the mind, bringing clear direction, assertive decisions, discernment to recognize opportunities, and courage to move forward. There is no more confusion, no more fear of making mistakes, because there's a greater driving guiding every step. And what was once a doubt is now starting to become strategy, vision, and positioning. Doors begin to open, right doors, at the right time, with the right connections. People, opportunities, ideas, resources. Everything begins to line up in an almost supernatural way. And what seemed distant begins to approach with speed, because there's a divine intervention activating this new cycle of prosperity, abundance, and growth. And in the midst of it all, the heart begins to feel something different, no longer that weight of the beginning, but a lively expectation, a hope that grows and strengthens, a certainty that something good is being prepared. Because provision doesn't just come as an answer. It comes as confirmation that God's presence is already driving everything. And as this new cycle begins to manifest, a deep healing is also established. Quiet yet powerful, touching areas that often didn't even know needed restoration. The body begins to respond, the mind begins to slow down, and the heart finds a resting space that long ago seemed distant. Because when God's presence touches, there is no part that is left out. All the accumulated pain, all the fatigue that dragged on, all the tension that seemed to have no end, begins to dissolve like mist before the light. There's a new force being released now, an energy that does not come from human effort, but from a divine intervention that renews, strengthens, and sustains. The weight is being removed, layer by layer, and in its place, lightness enters, peace enters, life enters. The mind, which was previously agitated, begins to find silence. Racing thoughts lose intensity, worries cease to dominate, and a state of peace begins to occupy every inner space. It is not a common peace. It is a peace that guards, that protects, that stabilizes, that brings clarity even in the midst of uncertainties. It is a peace that transforms. And in that healing environment, something deeper happens. Emotions are restored, old wounds begin to heal, and what seemed irreparable begins to be rebuilt. There is restoration happening now, not only in the body, but in the soul, in the spirit, in the way of feeling and living. There is a new beginning being released, strong, firm, and full of hope. The strength returns, the disposition is renewed, and the day that started heavy now begins to carry a new atmosphere. Because where there was delivery, there was a response. Where there was faith, there was movement. And where there was pain, now there is healing. And while this peace begins to take hold within, it also extends outward, reaching every person, every environment, every detail of the home, as if an invisible covering was being released now, enveloping everything with protection, care, and presence of God. Because what is restored inside is not limited. It overflows, reaches, transforms the surrounding environment. Every member of the family is reached by this protection. Children are guarded, paths are protected, decisions are directed, and even that which cannot be seen is covered by a spiritual force that watches, sustains, and delivers from all evil. No matter the distance, no matter the situation, there is a divine intervention that reaches each one, bringing security, deliverance, and peace. Every division begins to be broken. Every word that generated conflict loses strength. All energy of envy, misunderstanding, or coldness begins to be dissolved. What was once tension begins to give way to reconciliation, understanding, respect. Because where God's presence enters, harmony finds room to grow again, and the home begins to transform, not just in a physical place, but in a spiritual refuge, an environment where peace remains, where hope is cultivated, where faith is strengthened day after day. a place where the weight does not enter, where the light remains on, where the presence of God is constantly manifested. There's a new atmosphere being established now, and everything that does not belong to this environment of peace, protection, and restoration is being removed, because this home is being consecrated, guarded, and aligned with something greater. There's a certainty starting to take hold now, no longer as a distant thought, but as a living conviction that occupies the interior and declares, with authority, that this moment is not ordinary. It is a spiritual milestone. It is the instant in which victory begins to manifest itself in a real, concrete, and irreversible way. Because where there was faith, there was response, and that response is already in motion. The miracle is no longer distant. He has already begun. Even though it is not completely visible, even though it is in process, there's a transformation happening now, aligning paths, restoring areas, opening doors, and releasing what was retained. Nothing stood still. Everything began to move at the exact moment when there was surrender, when there was faith, when there was this connection with the presence of God. Every contrary word loses strength in the face of this new reality. All doubt begins to fall to the ground. All insecurity dissolves because there's a spiritual authority being established. Victory is no longer a possibility. It is a declaration. Liberation has already happened. Healing has already been released. Restoration is already underway. And abundance has already begun to find its way. The heart no longer carries the same weight. The mind is no longer stuck in the same cycle. And the spirit already positions itself differently. There is strength. There is clarity. There is direction. The day that began with anguish is now repositioned as a day of transformation, achievement, responses, and advancement. And even before you see it, before you even touch it, there is already gratitude, for faith recognizes before the eyes confirm. He is grateful for what has already happened in the invisible. He is grateful for what is being prepared. He is grateful because he knows. The miracle has already begun. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. May this holiness descend now as a living presence, as a spiritual covering over every thought, every emotion, every path that will be trodden on this day. May your kingdom be established not only as a promise, but as a present reality, ruling with peace, bringing order where there was confusion, light where there was shadow, direction where there was uncertainty. Thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven, and may this perfect will align every detail of life, opening the right doors, closing paths that do not edify, leading with divine wisdom every decision that needs to be made. May daily bread be released abundantly, not only in physical sustenance, but also in emotional, spiritual, and financial provision, bringing security, stability, and confidence. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us, and that in this forgiveness there is deep liberation, breaking of invisible chains, healing of memories, restoration of feelings. May no weight of the past have more power over the present, and may the lightness of forgiveness make room for a new life, full of peace and hope. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from all evil. Deliver from every invisible attack, from every negative influence, from every trap set. May there be constant protection, firm spiritual guard, divine intervention in every situation. For yours is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. And in that truth, there is security, there is strength, there is victory. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with you. Blessed are you among women, and blessed is the fruit of your womb, Jesus. May this grace pour out now like a balm, bringing healing, bringing peace, enveloping every area of life with motherly care and heavenly presence. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. And in this now, which there is so much need, which there is so much searching, which there is so much surrender, let there be a response. Let there be consolation. Let there be direction. Let there be miracle. May protection be extended. May hope be strengthened. And may God's presence remain constant. Amen. And everything that was released at this moment is still in motion. Even after these words, even in the silence that follows, there's a work going on. There's a divine intervention sustaining every detail, leading every step, strengthening every area that needed restoration. Because when God's presence is activated with faith, nothing goes back to the previous state. Everything begins to move towards transformation. The peace that has arrived is not fleeting, it remains. It guards. It accompanies throughout this day. The force that has been released does not dissipate. It supports, it lifts, it leads. And what began as a relief in the heart is now established as a new foundation, a new inner state, a new way of living this day with confidence, hope, and certainty of protection. And for those who feel that call to continue, to deepen that connection, to build an even stronger and more consistent spiritual habit, there's a path being opened. If you feel the call to go deeper and build a consistent habit of prayer in the morning, I invite you to start the 30-day morning prayer journey. Clarity and the presence of God. The link is available in the pinned comment. And as a continuous gesture of agreement with everything that has been released here, with this faith that remains alive, with this decision to remain aligned with the presence of God, I ask you to bless us with your subscription to the channel and give us your like on this video. And if this prayer touched deeply, if it brought peace, direction, or relief, may it not just stay here, that she reaches other lives. And if this prayer reminded you of someone who needs peace, strength, or direction, share it with that person, especially on WhatsApp. Because what God begins in one heart is often destined to reach many others. And so, with anticipatory gratitude, with firm faith, and with the certainty that the miracle is already in motion, this moment is sealed. There's victory, there's protection, there's healing, there's restoration, and all of this will continue to manifest throughout this day. Tomorrow, we'll continue this journey together.